Hi everyone, this is Hacks. As you all know, the Melee community is on the cusp of standardizing box firmware which is intended to nerf the controller. While the desire to create balance between the GameCube controller and box is understandable, I should emphasize that as the box developer, I am vehemently against the proposed set of changes. In many of my videos, I've emphasized that the true solution to controller balance is to improve the community's standardized patch, which is currently known as UCF. This is because there are still many GameCube controller improvements which can be given without compromising either controller's quality of life. Unfortunately, I've mostly been excluded from controller legality discussions. This seems to have nothing to do with my career status, but rather the fact that I'm a box controller developer, and therefore I ought to be removed due to potential bias. I would like to assure everyone that I designed the box in good faith, and that the suggestions which will come in this video series are being made in good faith as well. Had the box not been designed in good faith, then the project would have been a failure in the first place. This video will be a part of a series of shorts which will contest the changes that are being proposed for the box. Box users are currently defenseless against these proposed changes in the sense that they're being given no choice but to accept them. While many box players have vocally opposed these nerfs, they unfortunately lack the influence and/or the educated perspective as to why these nerfs will send the game in the wrong direction. The conclusions that are drawn in this video series can ultimately be derived from the video titled Why the Box Nerfs Are a Mistake, which I released on February 6th. However, this video series will isolate each of the individual problems with the controller committee's decisions and go into greater detail about each of them. I will continue to release these videos every few days until I feel that I've covered all of the key points. I hope these videos are helpful. Today we'll be discussing the controller committee's decision to enforce neutral SOCD. This can be seen on the first page of the rule set proposal, which states that neutral SOCD is now required. For starters, I'd like to go over the three SOCD cleaning methods, as well as how they rank against each other in terms of in-game strength. SOCD, which stands for Simultaneously Opposite Cardinal Directions, refers to what happens when a digital controller inputs a cardinal direction followed by the opposing cardinal. There are three systems which can be used here, and so I'll go over each of them. The first system is Override plus Reactivate. Override plus Reactivate states that the second cardinal overrides the first. Additionally, upon release of the second cardinal, the first cardinal will be reactivated. Here is a visual demonstration of Override plus Reactivate. First left is activated, then right overrides left. Finally, left is reactivated upon the release of right. Virtually every Melee player is in agreement that Override plus Reactivate deserves to be banned. There are many reasons for this, but a very obvious one is Smash DI. Nerfing Smash DI is a top priority on the box, and prohibiting Override plus Reactivate is one of the ways in which this is achieved. This is because with Override plus Reactivate, a box user can simply release a directional button in order to quickly input the adjacent direction, which can result in a Smash DI input. This factor alone is enough to rule out Override plus Reactivate for the sake of competitive fairness. The next two SOCD cleaning systems are reasonable within the scope of what's competitively fair. The first is Override. Override allows for the second cardinal to override the first. However, the first cardinal will not reactivate upon the release of the second. This allows box users to cleanly input the direction they desire while having their controller's output match their intention. The other SOCD cleaning system is Neutral SOCD. Neutral SOCD states that two opposing cardinal directions will always output neutral. This is weaker than Override because the second input will additionally require a release of the first in order to output the desired direction. In this video, I'll briefly go over why I believe the Neutral SOCD nerf is unreasonable in comparison to the amount of quality of life that's sacrificed by enforcing it. I'll start by going over what quality of life actually means in this context. On the box, there are several design decisions which are intended to maximize quality of life. A prime example of this is the fact that there are only two modifier buttons. On the Smash box, there were originally 4 modifier buttons, which resulted in unergonomic motions being required. It was very important to reduce the number of modifier buttons to 2 in order to rectify this. Another example is the location of the box's up button. By placing up on the right pinky, the user is always able to press it comfortably. I recognize that this location was better than WASD because WASD forces the user to shift their left hand upward in order to reach up, which is uncomfortable. The two design decisions I just went over were essential in terms of making the box a successful product. That brings me to Neutral SOCD, which is a major backslide in terms of the user's enjoyment. As someone with years of experience with the SOCD cleaning methods, the conclusion I've ultimately drawn about Neutral SOCD is that it is only a true nerf when the intention is to press left on frame 1 followed by right on frame 2. Whenever the intention is to press left on frame 1 followed by right on frame 3 or later, Neutral SOCD is more of an annoyance than a nerf, as it can easily be circumvented with enough practice. In terms of how this translates to in-game techniques, frame 1 left followed by frame 2 right is required during ledge dashing, as this is how you ledge fall and then jump toward the stage. Meanwhile, frame 1 left followed by frame 3 right is required during dash dancing, as this is how you dash back then dash back again. I'll show video clips of each of these examples. When you dash dance, it is possible to dash back on frame 1 and then dash back once again on frame 3. The box is inarguably better at this than the GameCube controller, whether neutral SOCD is enforced or not. Neutral SOCD generally acts as more of an annoyance than anything here, as it is still entirely possible to dash back twice frame perfectly even if neutral SOCD is enforced. The next clip will cover ledge dashing. When you ledge fall on frame 1, you then want to jump toward the stage on frame 2 in order to secure 1.0 jump trajectory. This is outlined within the box manifesto itself. As you can see, the box's ledge dash angle was designed around 1.0 jump trajectory, which requires a forward input. Neutral SOCD makes jumping toward the stage harder because in addition to inputting right on frame 2, you additionally have to let go of left on that same frame as well. This means that an additional 1 frame input is required. The catch is that this downside of neutral SOCD can be bypassed. By ledge falling with the C-stick, a box user is then able to jump toward the stage on the next frame without having to release their first analog stick input. This is the optimal ledge dashing method once neutral SOCD is enforced. Unfortunately, this brings us back to the importance of quality of life and comfort. As I showed earlier, the box's success was largely due to the fact that I found ways around unergonomic inputs such as this one. In this case, the box user is being incentivized to use an unergonomic input sequence in order to ledge dash more easily and bypass the neutral SOCD nerf. This is enough to disqualify neutral SOCD from contention in itself, as the importance of quality of life cannot be understated. Whereas override allows the user to seamlessly input their desired direction via the analog stick, neutral SOCD incentivizes the user to ledge fall with the C-stick, which is in a much less ideal location for this technique. Therefore, whatever competitive benefits are brought to the table by neutral SOCD are greatly outweighed by the quality of life that's lost. In conclusion, the controller committee has brought into question whether the box should be allowed to use its preferred SOCD cleaning method of override or if it should be reduced to the less preferable method of neutral SOCD. While the suggestion to reduce the box to neutral SOCD for competitive balance purposes is understandable, what the committee must understand is that quality of life has to be considered as well. The box's limit to 2 modifier buttons and location of its up button are prime examples of how quality of life is maximized. Neutral SOCD is a considerable backslide here, mainly because it incentivizes the user to ledge fall with the C-stick during ledge dashing. This in itself is enough to disqualify neutral SOCD from contention in my opinion. Furthermore, there is the fact that neutral SOCD is mostly an annoyance for anything that requires opposing cardinals to be pressed on frame 1 followed by frame 3 or later. In the hands of a skilled box user, neutral SOCD fails to nerf the controller in any meaningful way during these sequences due to the copious amount of time which is provided to release the initial cardinal. I hope this video has been helpful. In the next video, we'll go over coordinate fuzzing, which is another one of the committee's nerfs that I disagree with. Stay tuned.